comments, we may prioritize those who have not been heard yet to speak. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. Please note that we are required to obtain the legal names of anyone providing public comment, as required by the Federal Advisory Committee Act and its regulation 41 CFR 102-3.165. I must ensure that detailed minutes are kept, and those minutes must include a list of persons who are present at the meeting today, and those minutes must include a list of persons who are present, including members of the public who present oral or written comment. Please contact staff at lschiller, LSCHILLER, at usccr.gov if there's an error in your name and you need it to appear correctly in the public record. Based on these proceedings, the committee will prepare a report to the United States Commission on Civil Rights detailing findings and recommendations for addressing this issue of national importance. Drafts will be available for public review, and we are grateful to all speakers for their willingness to share their experience with us today. Thank you. Today, we are scheduled to hear from 5 panelists. Once all the panelists have finished testimony, we will have a Q&A session. Panelists are invited to stay for the remainder of the meeting as long as you are able. Following public comment, we will have a short committee business meeting open to the public. We will now begin our process, and Ms. Oldham, I do see you and will mark you present. Our first speaker for today is Mr. James Campbell. Mr. Campbell, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, committee. I'd like to personally thank you all for answering the call to speak with impacted parents like my wife and myself regarding the family policing system, also known as Children Protective Service. Before I give my bio, I want everyone on this call to close their eyes and use their imagination. And Ms. Anna, if you can hold up my first slide. A mother and a father are in their home spending quality time with their 4 children, laughing, enjoying each other, while eating a nice breakfast. You can feel the love and joy in the room. Then you hear a knock on the door, and you are confused because you weren't expecting any visitors. You look out the peephole, and you see 6 people, 4 law enforcement officers with guns on their hips, and 2 individuals with papers in their hand. You open the door, and one of the individuals says the worst words you have ever heard uttered. I'm here to take your children, and here's the paperwork to do so. Unfortunately, this experience I just described is reality for many in our state. History tells us that in 1824, the breakup of African American families pre-emancipation was normal and legal in southern states. What should alarm us, though, is that it's 2024. The same practice is happening today. The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is the new slave master, trading children for profit. Just as slavery helped build this nation's wealth, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is trafficking children for the monetary gain for the state of North Carolina. If you can play my first link, please.
Anna, we can't hear the audio.
By slaveholders.
There we go.
Families were often separated, with spouses, parents, and children sold to different owners. This was a deliberate strategy by slaveholders to weaken familial bonds and exert control over the enslaved population.
My name is James LeVar Campbell, a native of Lima, Ohio, and an impacted Black father. I earned my BS in Business Administration from St. Augustine's College, now University. I received my MBA from Capella University. I work for the city of Charlotte, which is a governmental municipality. I coach local sports in Cabarrus County, and I am a pillar of my community. Can you go to my second slide, please? Out of everything that I just mentioned, the titles that best describe me are husband and father. My wife and I are both highly educated individuals, and we moved to Cabarrus County for the betterment of our children. Or in the words of my wife, who is from Oklahoma, it has that country vibe that's not too far from the big city. Not to mention, we are a blended family, just like the Adam Sandler movie. I'm a bonus dad to 2 daughters, ages 25 and 10, along with an 18-year-old son. I have a 9-year-old son, and my wife and I have 2 little boys, ages 6 and 5. Most recently, and if you can go to my last slide, I'm sorry, second to last slide. Back one, please. One more. There we go. Most recently, I've also been thrust in the spotlight as an activist with families impacted by the family policing system here who lived in Cabarrus County. I would like to show a clip of a county commissioner meeting from April of this year where I spoke out about my children being taken. If you can play my second video, please.
Cabarrus County man claims his right to free speech has been violated after he was escorted out of a commissioner's meeting. Thanks for joining us for your news at 6. I'm Alicia Barnes. County officials claim that the man failed to follow a public comment policy that outlines what citizens can say at the meetings. Queen City News reporter Casey Jones live tonight from Cabarrus County Government Center there. Now, Casey, why did the man get kicked out of the meeting?
Monday night, James Campbell was one of several citizens who signed up to speak about what they say is misconduct within the child protective system here in Cabarrus County. During his speech, Campbell named the names of several workers he said failed his family, and that's when he was escorted out.
You can continue your comments, but you cannot call out names of county employees.
Well, let me tell you something. Until I see it on a policy that I am privy to, I'm going to continue to call out names.
You can stop that video, please.
Escorted James Campbell.
On August 7th, 2023, my family life changed forever. That's when the family policing system improperly removed, at the time, my 17-year-old, 9, 3, and 5-year-old children from our home. This all started after a report was made after my bonus daughter reported allegations of improper actions by her biological father. These allegations had been previously substantiated by Cabarrus County DHS in 2018. And we were told to report any concerns in the future. Yet the tables were turned on my wife and I, and Cabarrus County destroyed my family after a flawed investigation was conducted by an untrained social worker. Let's be clear, contacting CCDHS was the worst decision my family has ever made. My 17-year-old bonus son was shipped off to Michigan to his father, who had little to no contact with him for most of his life. My 2 young sons were placed in foster care because the department failed to ask for placement options until 48 hours of us constantly calling. Worst of all, my bonus daughter was placed back with her accuser. How is this a system of child protection? When I can sit in front of you today and say my children have not been protected. In fact, they have been traumatized by the system. With the family policing system, you're presumed guilty until proven innocent. Can you go to my 4th slide, I believe? Thank you. You must visit your children at a designated time weekly for 1 hour in this set environment while being supervised by a caseworker and guardian ad litem administrator. Your children are asking, when are we going home constantly? And you are instructed to tell them, mommy and daddy are working on it. All this while being monitored. You must be careful of your actions and mindful of what you say, because it will be used against you to prove their false narratives. See, in our case, the petition alleged abuse and neglect, but without definitively defining what that meant. In all honesty, your social worker investigator took our children out of pure retaliation due to my wife filing a complaint on the investigator to the state level for months of non-communication regarding our case. Jessica Killian destroyed our family because she knew she could do it due to the unchecked power given to agents of the family policing system. These agents can commit lies in petitions and have a judge sign it without even reading it. Families have no resources to challenge these lies before a judge legalizes the kidnapping of children from their home. Today, as I speak to you, and if you can go to the last slide, I'm sorry, the second to last slide. Today, as I speak with you, my 2 young Black sons are currently being held in custody of Rowan County DSS due to Cabarrus County transferring our case on August 12th, 2024, and I'm demanding their release. I'm asking this committee to make calls, send emails, and help me reunite my family. See, my family is traumatized, just as my ancestors were, and time is irreplaceable. I can't get back any of our children's milestones that they accomplished from August 7th, 2023 until today. So Brian Thomas Nebo Jr., Ivy Adele Joseph, Madison Emmanuel Dion Campbell, and Mason Asher Camp, I promise to take down the family policing system by continuing to speak truth to power. And if you can do me one last favor, if you can play the last link, which is an iCloud link. And
Mr. Campbell, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And if you can play the last link, it's an open house video. And you're going to hear my son in the background talk about
I know,
his
buddy.
hungry.
I wanted to try to get you something to eat, something that's fulfilling in your stomach. I don't know how filling hummus is. Say what, buddy?
I know you're hungry,
I
but
know.
Miss Melissa said that y'all ate
I
something
mean, I
before
was
you
willing to
came
go
here,
get you guys something to eat.
but you gotta go to the faucet.
You can see my hand. You see my hand on the video?
Don't do that, Bubba. I mean, I was willing to get you something to eat, Bubba, but Miss Melissa won't allow me to get you nothing
Yeah,
to
the
eat.
quicker we get you to the Miss Khadijah, the
Khadijah.
faster you can eat, okay?
Come on.
You can stop the video. So I asked this committee again. These are the people that are supervising our children who are causing more harm than good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell, for your comments. We will now hear from Ms. Kanisha Irwin.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to give my experience how the CPS system has impacted my family. My name is Kanisha, and I am from Gastonia, North Carolina. I am a single mother, and my family has been impacted by the CPS system since December of 2014. My testimony today is relevant to this committee's project scope of examining the family policing system and the implementation of the Rylands Law in North Carolina. CPS began to harass my family when I tried to hold my doctors accountable for the medical malpractice that my oldest son and I suffered when he was born. CPS conspired with the medical providers to hide the medical malpractice. My 2 children were physically pulled from my arms on November 3rd, 2017. My oldest son was 3 years old and my youngest son was 7 months old. My children have been in foster care for almost 7 years. For 10 years, I have been fighting CPS. My children mean the world to me, and I will never stop fighting for my children. Before my child was born, I was in college studying for my associate's degree. My long-term goal was to achieve my bachelor's degree in gynecology. When my eldest son was born in 2014, we both suffered injuries from the labor and birth as a result of medical malpractice and negligence. I filed civil complaints against the medical providers who caused these injuries. The medical providers retaliated against me by making reports to CPS, who then threatened to take my child away from me in 2014. CPS accused me of being negligent because I was preparing to leave my life in North Carolina to move to Texas so my son could get the medical care he needed. Next slide, please. My son's medical records state that CPS involvement during that time was unfortunate because it prevented my son from getting the treatment he needed. Between 2014 and 2017, CPS repeatedly accused me of being mentally unstable because I was fighting for my son's medical care. At the same time, CPS falsely accused me of neglecting my son's medical care. Next slide, please. By 2017, I reported a mold problem in my apartment to the leasing office, and they refused to repair the severe mold damages in our home. CPS conspired with the leasing office, and instead of helping me address the mold issues or find another place to live, CPS petition states that they were concerned about the safety of our home and assumed that I was mentally ill when I complained about the mold. CPS dismissed my concerns about the mold and conspired with the leasing office to permit them to also ignore this problem. I discovered on my own, and I have evidence that the mold was toxic and a long-term injurious condition within the apartment. CPS continued to ignore this issue and failed to provide any support. I am certain that CPS conspired with the apartment leasing office because both CPS and the leasing office ignored the mold until after my parental rights were unlawfully terminated. In March of 2022, the leasing office tested the home for mold, and the results show that the home was damaged by long-term mold exposure and dangerous. This just shows CPS failure to investigate further. In October of 2017, I was unlawfully arrested following a false report made by CPS. I was supposed to be in court for the medical malpractice and negligence case I filed on behalf of my son on the day I was unlawfully arrested. Only a few weeks later, on November the 3rd, 2017, my children were unlawfully removed from my care based on false claims for which CPS had no evidence. The petition filed against me states that my children were removed due to CPS concerns that I was allegedly showing signs of mental illness. Next slide, please. The agency's allegations were based upon my concerns for the medical negligence. My son experienced the toxic mold in our apartment. After my children were taken away, a caseworker stated that she was concerned about my child's developmental delays. She had the same concerns that I had included in the civil complaints. She presented her concerns to the court on March 20th in 2018. Next slide, please. The court terminated my parental rights in 2022 based on CPS false claims. I was deprived of a fair trial. I was barred from presenting the evidence of the mold issues, and my parental rights were terminated. The court ruled to terminate my parental rights without reviewing any evidence I was willing to provide to support my case. My children are now trapped in CPS custody because CPS abused its authority and power. CPS discriminated against my family because we were too poor to afford our own medical care, and we were too poor to repair the dangerous mold in our home. Due to my skin color, I was robbed of my own rights to my children because I filed civil complaints to address the medical negligence that caused my son's birth injuries and to address the dangerous mold in my apartment. Since I am a poor Black single mom, CPS took my children away from me because I was seeking justice for my children. Finally, I believe that Ryland's Law had a negative impact on my case. After my parental rights were terminated, I had no time to prove that CPS had violated my civil rights and that the court was negligent. I was not given a fair opportunity to appeal the termination of my parental rights. I was denied the opportunity to find legal representation during the appeals proceeding. Because of this, I was denied the equal opportunity to prepare an appeal, present evidence, or find my own legal counsel, and the court ultimately decided to deny my appeal. The time restrictions on appeals implemented by the Ryland's Law prevented me from reversing the TPR order. My children are trapped illegally in the custody of the foster care system. I was not consulted nor involved in the decision made by CPS and the court about where my children were placed. I have evidence that the family that fostered my children has drugs in the family home, that there are gang members in their home. The judge denied my concerns about the placement and refused to give me my children back. Next slide, please. The foster care family calls my children niggas. When I asked them not to do this, she told me that the Black man communicates by calling one another nigga. The foster care family has also failed to take responsibility for my children's medical care. After my children were removed from my care, both suffered severe injuries. Next slide, please. Details of these statements are in the PowerPoint slides. CPS deprived me of visiting my children in the hospital, and I was not able to talk to the doctors or see their medical records. No one explained what caused my children injuries. The caseworker is fully aware of these abuses. I have reported them myself. CPS is aware of this. CPS is aware of this mistreatment that my children suffer in foster care. The court and CPS ignored the abuse my children suffered in foster care, and the court still states that foster care is in the best interest for my children. I have done everything I can to get my children back and to fight this discrimination we continue to experience. I filed civil complaints for the medical negligence my son and I experienced. I filed complaints to repair the mold problem. I filed 2 appeals after the TPR. I also filed a pro se lawsuit in federal court based on discrimination my family suffered. I have filed complaints against the judges and government attorneys who discriminate against these proceedings. I have filed complaints with federal agencies, including the Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services. My case isn't unique. Cases like this happen every day. Poverty, disabilities caused by birth injuries, and the color of our skin is why CPS has torn my family apart. The system ruined African American families every day. CPS abuses its power and authority to kidnap our children from their loving families. The committee should investigate these cases and take actions immediately. CPS removed these children and the court support the removals based on the agency's assumptions about their families and not